Yeah, betrayal is really a devastating thing. At the end of any marriage is very sad, and it's devastating in itself. There are children involved, but betrayal is a little bit...
Imagine rising from the shadows of abuse, betrayal, and life-threatening illness to become one of the world's best-selling female artists. Shania Twain's journey is a true roller coaster. A childhood spent singing in bars to survive, a meteoric rise to global stardom, and devastating setbacks that nearly silenced her forever. Yet she endured. What fueled her resilience when everything collapsed? Today, we explore the truth she long kept private, the hidden source behind her voice, strength, and survival. Fans sensed it all along, but the full story reshapes her legacy. The hidden struggle behind her voice. Behind the dazzling lights and roaring applause, Shania Twain was fighting a private battle that few knew about for years. Her voice, which had won millions of fans and countless awards, was slowly slipping away. It wasn't just the toll of relentless touring or the pressures of fame. There was a deeper, hidden struggle undermining her very ability to sing. This struggle shaped her journey in ways most fans could never imagine. The story of Shania's voice is not one of instant success, but of resilience in the face of a silent and stubborn enemy. Shania first noticed the signs during the recording of her breakthrough album, but it took decades before the true cause became clear. The voice that once soared so freely began to weaken, crack, and falter during live shows. Every note became a battle, and the woman who had been a symbol of strength and independence was facing a vulnerability few had seen. Despite this, she quietly kept performing, masking the physical pain and fatigue with determination and grace. Behind her signature smile was a voice struggling desperately to hold on. What makes her story even more compelling is how she balanced this hidden illness with the demands of motherhood, marriage, and a skyrocketing career. While her fame grew, Shania's health was quietly declining, and her voice bore the brunt of it. She endured grueling tours, studio sessions, and public scrutiny while grappling with symptoms that no one fully understood at the time. The strength to maintain her career amid personal turmoil added layers of complexity to what fans saw on stage. The resilience she showed offstage was as remarkable as the performances she gave. This hidden struggle also affected her marriage, contributing to emotional distances and tensions that would later become publicly known. While Shania and her husband collaborated on some of the most iconic country pop music of their era, her declining health made everyday life and working together challenging. The strain was something she carried quietly, rarely revealing the depth of her pain. Yet her music continued to echo her inner strength and ongoing fight. The silence around her illness created an aura of mystery that only fueled speculation. For years, rumors floated about the real reasons behind her less frequent appearances and shifting vocal style, but Shania said little publicly. She preferred to keep the focus on her music, not her pain. This choice to stay silent was both a shield and a burden, as it forced her to find ways to cope without fully revealing the extent of her battles. Her perseverance became a story inside a story, one of quiet endurance rather than loud declarations. The truth was waiting to be told, buried beneath layers of resilience and reinvention. As time went on, Shania faced additional challenges, including episodes of dizziness and blackouts that went unexplained for years. These symptoms added another layer of struggle beyond her voice, impacting not just performance, but everyday life. The woman who once commanded stadiums with energy was also navigating severe physical obstacles in private. It was a reminder that behind every icon lies a deeply human reality. The resilience she needed to survive extended far beyond the music. Her refusal to let these obstacles define her was crucial to her eventual comeback. But the cost was high. The damage to her vocal cords was significant, forcing her to transition from a powerhouse singer to someone who had to rethink her approach entirely. This transformation was painful but necessary, marking a new chapter where physical healing and self-acceptance became as important as musical success. Her journey was about reclaiming not just her career, but her identity. The full story of this battle reveals the true source of her strength. Though the details were kept private for decades, Shania's recent openness about her health challenges has changed the conversation around her legacy. Fans and fellow artists now understand the depth of what she endured silently while continuing to produce chart-topping music. This honesty has cast her achievements in a new light, as triumphs not just of talent, but of astonishing resilience. The revelation reshapes the way we listen, appreciating her voice not only for its beauty, but for the courage behind it. What she faced is a testament to enduring willpower. The struggle behind her voice sets the stage for a deeper understanding of the person behind the superstar. It is the foundation on which her entire story rests, the hidden pain that fueled her determination and creativity. Yet, what Shania endured goes far beyond vocal challenges, touching on the roots of her difficult past and the battles that forged her spirit. The full truth will unfold as we look closer at where she came from and what shaped her unbreakable resolve. Even as that past casts a long shadow, it also lights the path forward, connecting the struggles she faced as a child to the battles within her voice. Shania's story is not simply about lost and found talent. It is about surviving the impossible and transforming pain into power. The journey from hardship to healing and from silence to truth is one that defines her legacy in the most profound way. As we step back now to the beginning, her childhood reveals the roots of the courage that would carry her through everything to come. A childhood marked by trauma. Shania Twain's roots trace back to a small mining town in Ontario, where her early life was filled with hardship, and hardship alone. Born as Eileen Regina Edwards on August 28, 1965, her earliest years were fraught with poverty, instability, and pain. Her parents separated when she was only 2, and she was raised by her mother alongside her sisters. Life was a constant struggle, with the family frequently moving to stay ahead of unpaid bills and often living without electricity or enough food. Her mother, Sharon, was a tireless force in Shania's life, spotting her daughter's extraordinary voice and pushing her into local talent shows. Even though money was scarce, Sharon drove Shania hundreds of miles to perform wherever she could. By the age of 4, Shania was already playing simple tunes on a toy guitar, and by 5, she was winning small prizes for her singing. But these small moments of promise were set against the backdrop of a harsh and unforgiving environment, where survival often depended on sheer will. Turmoil at home was unceasing. Jackson Jerry Twain, Shania's stepfather, was one of those people whose anger was impossible to control, and he, therefore, gradually turned his rage towards the family. Shania, a little girl at that time, was not only witnessing but also suffering physical abuse in her family.
A revealing interview with Shania Twain about surviving physical and sexual abuse as a child and the steps she took to protect herself.
Beneath the confident facade, Shania says she was carrying childhood trauma that made her feel ashamed to be a girl.
The brutality left marks that were not visible, but were still quite painful and widespread. A 10-year-old Shania was already feeling a terrifying combination of fear, shame, and guilt for her family that she did not know how to manage. She cared for her mother and siblings as much as she could, even as the darkness of her home life surrounded her. One of the dangers that Shania encountered was that she got to see the destructive side of people. Once, it was a kid who was singing in the bars and getting money, who was still exposed to brutal men. Sometimes she was touched without her consent, and this led to her taking silly precautions like wearing 3 bras to appear less noticeable. Overflowed with fear, Shania was still there, driven by the inner need to contribute and survive. The very beginning of her career was marked by those gloomy bars long before the stadium lights and Grammy stages. Mother's depression was a heavy burden on the family, and Shania's already being so young was bitterly impacted by this through her initial creation of songs as a means of escape from fear and suffering. Music was a powerful thing, a safe place, and a way of expressing feelings. One of her songs from that time was so direct that it addressed her mom's struggles, which already showed Shania's keen perception of their shared suffering. This was a childhood made of trauma, but also of the first flames of artistic light. The toughness developed in those years was the very thing that laid the ground for the woman she would turn out to be. In November 1987, devastating news came once again when Shania's mother and stepfather lost their lives in a car accident. At the age of 22, she was forced to take upon herself the responsibility of her 3 younger siblings. The crushing responsibility that the whole family had made her give up her own dreams. She played the double roles of mother, provider, and protector. Her family's survival was her only priority. It was a sacrifice that revealed her strength, but also delayed the time of her full potential being let out. Despite the mighty overload, Shania still had her voice and love for music as her most intimate and dear-to-the-heart neighbors. She got her first job at the resort, Deerhurst, in Huntsville, where she was a live performer in the evenings and a caretaker to her siblings during the days for years. The exhausting and challenging times in those early years brought Shania nothing but a very important experience, though. She taught herself the discipline of performing and the value of being patient and sticking to what one wants, even in hard times. For Shania, music turned into neither a mere escape nor a purely part of her character, but rather an integral part of her whole being. Looking at the foundation of those years makes it clear how every success was hard-earned. The bravery required to confront such pain and still perform publicly is staggering. Knowing what she has overcome adds layers of meaning to even her most famous songs. The story of Shania Twain is, above all else, one of survival and the relentless refusal to be defined by trauma. This survival paved the way for the breakthrough that would shock a music world unprepared for her. The early rise and breakthrough. After years of struggle and sacrifice, Shania's move to Nashville in 1989 marked a turning point, though not an immediate one. Despite signing with Mercury Records, her early attempts at success were met with rejection and frustration. Her demos didn't fit Nashville's expectations, as her mix of country and rock broke established rules. For a time, she worked odd jobs, cleaning houses, and sometimes struggled with unstable living conditions. Yet, her talent and perseverance caught the attention of producer Norro Wilson, who played a key role in launching her debut album. Released in 1993, that self-titled debut album sold only modestly and failed to make a major impact. Shania had little say in the production, penning just one song herself, and the album's sound didn't represent the artist she knew herself to be. Critics acknowledged her vocal potential, but could sense the album's lack of authenticity. Despite this setback, Shania kept refining her sound and vision, determined to find a way to break free from the constraints placed on her by the industry. Her fortunes changed when she met Robert John Mutt Lang, a rock producer known for his work with Def Leppard and AC/DC. They began working together in 1993 and quickly developed both a professional partnership and a romantic connection. 6 months after meeting, they married, and their collaboration sparked a creative rebirth. Together, they began crafting music that blended country with pop and rock elements, an innovative sound that would come to redefine country music forever. February 7, 1995, saw Shania's release of The Woman in Me, which not only stunned, but also remodeled the country music scene. Its unconventional blend of pop-dominated country music even represented a challenge to the conservative listeners and critics. But the risk paid off. Album got the US of over 12 million copies in the US and diamond certification by 1997. Songs such as Whose Bed Have Your Boots Been Under and Any Man of Mine not only dominated the country charts, but also pop, hence marking Shania's entry as a superstar. This was a record-breaking success that only foreshadowed the career to come. The Woman in Me was not only a commercial success, it represented a liberation statement at the same time. Shania insisted on being recognized as a co-producer quite often. She wrote new lyrics to face social problems, otherwise she was living the life of every woman. On the one hand, she was a new mother, and the next thing she was an influencer, proving daily her diligence and strength that went hand in hand with her growing celebrity. On the other hand, she had to face some storms despite her victories. The production of the album had already shown some signs of a hidden illness when the singer's voice was losing quality slowly and without any obvious reason. And, simultaneously, while she was becoming more popular, she was already fighting a war without the enemy being apparent. Yet, her public image stayed strong, radiant, and self-assured, thus covering with a mist the physical challenges that she privately experienced. The disparity between the energy she gave off while performing and her suffering when not performing would become the very characteristic of her narrative. This paradox was highlighted by her first major tour. Between 1995 and 1996, Shania was seen in over 150 cities, and massive audiences and $1 million earnings were the results of her performances. The touring and the physical toll of the performances were very tiring, but she would not give in. On the contrary, the tour greatly enhanced her image, which was now that of a singer as well as a powerful and versatile performer who could take control of any stage. In fact, she got to the point where her influence started to break the rules of Nashville's traditional music, and at the same time, she was opening up for the next generation of country artists. Despite the fact that she won her first Grammy for Best Country Album in 1996, she was already a very popular artist. But there were still some parts of the country music industry that were not so welcoming. Some radio stations did not play her songs at all, while others accused her of being a genre traveler. But she never said she was sorry for her musical style. Rather, she took it a step further, claiming that her music represented the progression of the genre, not its abandonment. Her opposition became part of her image and attracted a lot of fans and artists to her. Shania's early rise and breakthrough were the result of several years of suffering and unwavering determination. It was not only a matter of getting the right talent, it was also about being able to speak one's mind and not being made into someone else's clone. The woman who had once sung in pubs to support her family now drew crowds into arenas and transformed the whole country music scene in the process. However, one could say that the success had been a very subtle struggle that was soon to come into clearer focus and redefined her story yet again. The challenges around her health and personal life would soon test her in ways she never expected, revealing the true depths of her resilience. The impact of Lyme disease. Just as Shania Twain's career was soaring to historic heights, an invisible enemy began quietly attacking her body. In 2003, she contracted Lyme disease from a tick bite while horseback riding, though the diagnosis came much later.
I got Lyme's disease at the end of the up tour. The vocal cord nerves were damaged, each side, and I had to get an open throat surgery.
The illness slowly damaged her nervous system and vocal cords, threatening the very foundation of her identity as a singer. What started as subtle vocal weakness and dizziness escalated into blackouts and loss of control on stage, turning her powerful voice into an unreliable instrument. The damage was insidious and terrifying. Shania's voice would suddenly cut out mid-performance, forcing her to rely on cortisone shots simply to finish shows. Emotionally, the experience was devastating, watching her greatest gift fade without understanding why. Yet she continued performing, driven by determination and fear of losing everything she had built. The physical toll was immense, but the emotional burden was even heavier. Apart from her singing, neurological manifestations were the other major consequences of Lyme disease. Sometimes she experienced vertigo and loss of consciousness every half a minute, a horrifying situation for a performer. She still kept up with the demanding tour schedule and was even on exercise and therapy sessions while struggling to do the least in private. As her health deteriorated, her fame was rising, but pretty much unnoticed. Eventually, the nerve injury brought about her suffering with dysphonia, which meant she could hardly speak or sing at all. After long years of different treatments, Shania opted for a very rare and risky surgery in 2018, staying awake and singing while the doctors were inserting Gore-Tex implants in her throat. The whole operation was a watershed moment. She came out of it possessing a scar that is now her badge of honor, a sign of triumph over silence. The process of recovery was lengthy and arduous. By means of close vocal therapy, she regained her command and equilibrium. The same complaining voice returned, but with more depth and change, yet still resilient. The disease also happened to coincide with a marriage strain, isolation, and increased anxiety based on previous trauma, making the situation harder during what should have been her zenith. Through it all, Shania never threw in the towel with her music. She was already undiagnosed. Still, she did hundreds of shows, giving strong performances in the most awful odds. Lyme disease almost silenced her, but instead, it turned into a distinct period in the tale of bravery, transformation, and unwillingness to vanish. Behind the scenes of this physical and emotional turmoil, a far more personal betrayal was unfolding, one that would shake Shania's world to its core and echo deeply in her music. Betrayal and heartbreak in marriage. By 2008, Shania Twain had already endured profound hardship, but nothing compared to the betrayal that shattered her personal world. After 15 years of marriage to producer and creative partner Robert John "Mutt" Lang, she learned he was having an affair, not with a stranger, but with her closest friend and personal assistant, Marie Ann Thibodeau. The truth came from Marie Ann's husband, delivering a blow that destroyed the foundation of trust Shania had built both personally and professionally. The emotional fallout was devastating. Shania later described the pain as reliving the loss of her parents, reopening deep wounds tied to childhood trauma and grief. This betrayal didn't just end a marriage, it dismantled her sense of safety. Already battling serious health issues, she fell into depression and withdrew from public life, relocating to Switzerland with her young son to escape the glare of fame and process the collapse of her world. Yet strength emerged from the wreckage in an unexpected way. Shania found understanding in Frederick Thibodeau, the husband who had been betrayed alongside her. Their shared heartbreak forged a deep bond, one rooted in empathy rather than anger. On January 1st, 2011, they married, symbolizing healing through forgiveness and mutual resilience rather than revenge. The betrayal also reshaped her music. Fans later realized that beneath the romance of earlier hits were traces of hidden pain. Her songs gained new emotional weight, revealing truths she hadn't yet spoken aloud. Though her divorce from Lang was finalized in 2010, the scars lingered. Still, Shania chose forgiveness, not to excuse the hurt, but to release herself from bitterness. This period forced her to confront unresolved trauma from her past, making therapy a crucial part of her healing. Through reflection and self-work, she reclaimed her identity as a survivor rather than a victim. The heartbreak fueled creative rebirth, deepening her artistry and strengthening her bond with fans. Shania Twain's journey through Betrayal became a catalyst for transformation. It proved that even the deepest personal wounds can give rise to strength, grace, and renewal, both in life and in art. Her health and personal battles set the stage for a remarkable comeback, one that would prove the true power behind her voice and spirit. Fighting back, recovery, and reinvention. After years of silently battling Lyme disease and enduring deep emotional upheaval in her personal life, Shania Twain reached a point many believed marked the end of her singing career. The nerve damage to her vocal cords was so severe that she could barely speak above a whisper, let alone sing. Doctors warned her the loss might be permanent. For Shania, whose identity was inseparable from her voice, the possibility of silence was devastating. Still, surrender was never an option. Determined to reclaim both her sound and her sense of self, she began a painful journey of healing, reinvention, and courage. In 2018, she underwent an extremely rare and frightening surgery that required her to remain awake and sing while surgeons worked on her throat. Gore-Tex supports were implanted to help her vocal cords move properly again. The procedure was risky, emotionally exhausting, and life-altering. When she emerged with a visible scar on her neck, Shania embraced it proudly, famously saying she would rather have a scar than silence. That moment became a symbol of survival and hope. Recovery was neither quick nor easy. For nearly 2 years, she committed to intensive vocal therapy, relearning muscle coordination, breath control, and balance. Her voice had changed, deeper, rougher, less agile, but she adapted. Instead of chasing her former range, she embraced a new sound, proving that artistry evolves. This physical recovery sparked an emotional rebirth, restoring her confidence and redefining her identity as a performer. Alongside vocal healing, Shania confronted severe anxiety and stage fright. Once exhilarating, performing now felt overwhelming. She openly discussed using hypnosis and mental health tools to cope, further deepening fans' respect for her honesty. When she returned to the stage in 2018 for 49 shows, the tour earned over $20 million and showcased a more vulnerable, resilient artist. Her official comeback came with Now in 2017, her first studio album in 15 years. Debuting at #1 on the Billboard 200, it reflected heartbreak, healing, and hard-won strength.
Back in the 90s, she was everywhere. Her catchy country pop music seemed to pop up every time we switched on the radio. One of her albums still ranks as the highest selling by any female artist.
Shania Twain didn't just reclaim her voice, she reinvented her legacy, proving reinvention is possible at any stage of life. Every ending sets the stage for a new chapter. With her voice renewed and her spirit stronger, Shania Twain embraced a bold new era, one that celebrated aging, self-love, and unapologetic power. A bold comeback and new message. In 2023, Shania Twain launched a powerful new chapter with Queen of Me, her most daring and introspective album to date. Released when she was 57, the project confronted topics rarely addressed in mainstream country or pop music: aging, menopause, body image, and radical self-acceptance. Across 12 tracks, such as Waking Up, Dreaming, and Giddy Up, Shania delivered a confident message of freedom and joy, proving her voice remained both relevant and fearless in challenging long-standing taboos. The album's impact was heightened by her decision to pose topless for its cover art, a symbolic reclaiming of her body after decades shaped by shame, trauma, and public scrutiny. For Shania, visibility became an act of defiance and healing. She embraced vulnerability not as weakness, but as strength, encouraging women to release fear and embrace themselves fully, on their own terms. Queen of Me debuted at #1 in the United Kingdom and sold 38,000 units in its first week in the United States. While it didn't aim to replicate the blockbuster sales of her earlier work, its cultural resonance was undeniable. Fans who grew up with Shania connected deeply to the album's honesty, maturity, and empowerment. Following its release, Shania embarked on a massive world tour spanning North America and Europe, delivering 75 shows between April 2023 and November 2024. Defying expectations, she performed with remarkable energy, blending spectacle with intimate storytelling. The tour grossed over $114 million, reaffirming her enduring star power. Beyond charts and ticket sales, this era marked a shift in how Shania connected with her audience. She spoke more openly on stage and in interviews about confidence, healing, and self-worth, transforming her performances into moments of shared reflection rather than pure nostalgia. Fans didn't just attend concerts, they witnessed an artist fully at peace with her evolution, inviting others to grow alongside her. More than a comeback, this era represents reinvention. Shania Twain isn't just reclaiming the spotlight. She's redefining what it means to thrive, create, and live boldly at any age. This new chapter is not an end, but a continuation, a bold statement that the best is yet to come. What Shania's truth means today. Shania Twain's recent openness about her past, marked by childhood trauma, serious health battles, and painful personal betrayals, has reshaped how fans understand her legacy. She is no longer seen only as a country pop icon, but as a powerful symbol of survival, resilience, and self-determination. By finally sharing what she endured behind the spotlight, Shania has given voice to experiences many suffer in silence, reminding the world that success does not erase pain. Her willingness to speak about childhood abuse and its long-term impact has helped break stigma around trauma and healing. Rather than allowing her past to define her, she transformed it into strength, redefining what vulnerability looks like in a demanding industry. In doing so, she expanded the conversation around mental health, self-worth, and authenticity, especially for women navigating fame and expectation. Shania's struggle with Lyme disease and the horrifying loss and recovery of her voice very clearly showed the human side of her success. Only a few artists dare to talk about how near they were to losing everything. Her return to the stage proved that identity is based not only on talent, but also on perseverance, spirit, and belief. Betrayal in personal life was also a factor in her transformation. The end of her marriage could have meant the end of her career, but she, in the end, chose to heal rather than be bitter, and as a result, rebuilt her life with honesty and grace. That emotional journey not only deepened her music, but also strengthened her connection with the audience. Shania is, to them, a celebrity who has undergone the hardest of trials. In this regard, she is more of a storyteller than an entertainer. Today, Shania is very open about her self-love, ageism, and discussing aging as a phony practice and claiming her body and narrative. Her story does away with the myth of a perfect celebrity, since it is the truth that takes people through the hardest times and makes them strong. Hence, more than just an entertainer, Shania Twain is a living proof of courage, renewal, and hope that can never fade away. Shania Twain's journey, from hardship and heartbreak to healing and empowerment, is truly inspiring. Her story reminds us that strength often comes from facing our deepest struggles. If you found her story as powerful as we did, please like and subscribe for more stories of resilience and triumph.